Welcome to Season 2 of the Small Town, Big Dreams podcast. Hi, I'm Becky Waples, and this is the podcast that celebrates small town creators and shares their stories. Each week, we dive into each creator's journey, from their background to where they found their courage, from their challenges to their wins, where they found their inspiration to how they took their first step. I cannot wait to chat, laugh, and inspire the next small town creator with each of my guests. If you are inspired by small town creators who turn their big dreams into reality, then this is the podcast for you. Please rate and subscribe to all upcoming episodes. Please follow on Instagram and Facebook, and always feel free to leave a message or comment to let me know what you'd like to hear or who you'd like to hear from. This little passion project is turning into quite the adventure, and I'm so glad you've come along for the ride. Thank you from the bottom of this small town creator's big heart. Let's grow together. Okay, Katie. Okay, perfect. This sounds working. So thank you for making the trip today. You came from Kincardine.
Yeah, I drove up here this morning, and I'm actually helping a client right after this, so it worked out really perfectly.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me on. Except for the one that you posted this week, I've listened to all of your episodes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know, I find it really inspiring just listening to other people and all of the advice that they have. So I don't know, I'm just really grateful that I get to be on the podcast now. Yeah,
it's fun. Thank you. That is a huge compliment, honestly, because I feel like sometimes I put them out, I'm like, I wonder if anyone's going to listen. And so
I'm listening.
Thank you. Well, thank you. So Katie, can you start, because I kind of just went into this, what do you do? Why are you here today?
So I am a full spectrum doula. I focus mainly on postpartum prenatal support, which we can get into. But yeah, I'm a doula. I work in mainly Kincardine, which is where I'm from, but I also support people all around, Grey, Bruce, Huron counties.
Perfect. And before we get started about your doula, tell us about yourself and tell us your background.
Yeah, so I have always lived in Kincardine, I grew up there.
Okay.
Always from a small town, interested in staying in a small town if that's where life takes me. I don't know. It's hard to say things about yourself.
I know.
But yeah, so growing up, I don't think I always knew that I wanted to be a doula.
Right.
But I've always been very interested in the birth space, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, that kind of thing.
Right.
And then it just sort of grew into wanting to become a doula. So I went to university at Western. I did health sciences there, primarily focusing on social determinants of health, which are health factors. Yeah, I didn't really even know what they were when I first got into the program, but then that's what I focused on. So really it's focusing on societal factors that influence people's health that they don't really have control over.
Okay.
So whether they're, born into a family that just doesn't have as many opportunities, it's harder to get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many of those different factors. So I really thought that was interesting. And just through that, it kind of drove me into the doula world a little bit, just because there are so many families who need support, who maybe don't have access to it.
Right.
So I just saw that gap, especially in a small town.
Right.
So then I randomly one night, it was midnight, was reminded that a doula was a thing. And I was like, I want to do that. I don't know, I had some sort of weird epiphany. I was nearly kind of almost done my undergrad. So I just Googled, how do you become a doula?
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw a few different things, a few different options. And then I saw that Fanshawe College had a 1-year program.
Mm-hmm.
And that was enticing to me because when I was already in London, so that would sort of be an easy transition.
Yeah.
But also it was a year-long program. So it just felt like it would be really comprehensive.
Yeah.
And really I would get all of the knowledge that I need. So randomly, just that night, I decided to apply. I don't know. It was a weird thing. And then it's just been going with the flow with that ever since. Yeah.
You probably know I went to Western and Fanshawe too. So that's fun.
Yeah. I heard you say that on one of the episodes. I'm like, anyway, we'll probably talk about that. It was a really interesting program. And I have my mom's sister, so one of my aunts that I'm closest with, she actually teaches in that program.
Oh.
So that wasn't really I want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
So we can sort of do this thing together. But she was my professor in one of my classes, which was kind of fun, which we didn't tell anybody because I'm I don't know, I don't really want my peers to know that that's my aunt.
Yeah.
But it was fun to sort of do that together. And I don't know, have that mutual understanding of that stuff. So,
Okay, so I always say, can you explain it like I'm 5? What does a doula do?
yeah. So I explain this a lot, and I think I do it differently every time. You can think of a doula kind of as an umbrella term,
Okay.
because you can work in the fertility space. You can work in the prenatal space when people are pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
You can work at a birth, and then you can work postpartum.
Okay.
So that's sort of why I think of it as an umbrella term, because there's so many different spokes.
You went to Western, then Fanja. How long? And there was a 1-year program.
Yeah.
And what did you learn? Like, what did it entail?
Literally everything. Like, I can call myself a full spectrum doula because of that program. Like, there were courses on, human anatomy, which I'd already kind of taken at Western, right. But this was more focused on the reproductive space and reproductive organs and stuff. There was also courses about, preparing for birth and all of the topics that could be included in that. There was, birth type courses, postpartum courses, grief courses, which was heavy, but I think really important, because grief comes in all different ways. Like, obviously terrible things can happen in pregnancy, birth space. So that, I don't know, it was interesting to learn that side of things, and that one day will happen in my career. So it's nice to feel prepared for that.
Yeah.
There was also a practicum aspect of it. Now, this was during COVID, so it looked a little different than other years. There really weren't very many birth opportunities for our cohort.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually do one through the school, because there were other people who knew that they wanted to do birth support primarily, and I wanted them to have that experience. So I really took on the postpartum practicum experiences. But that was really fun, like being able to actually work with people in London, like different families doing the work while you're learning. I think that's why college is really great.
Yeah.
Because you really get that experience so much more. Like 20 people in my program, experiences like that, compared to Western, where you always talk about like Psych 1000, where there's like 5 sections. Each section has like 700 people. Like, it's so different. Yeah. But yeah, the Fanshawe program was it was really intimate, really conversational, and just, I don't know. It was a really good program.
Yeah. I thought the same when I went to college. I was like, why is anybody going to university?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's programs now where you can go for the 4 years and still end up with a degree.
Yeah.
But your learning is so much more personalized, maybe.
Are you ready to live kindly, confidently, and ridiculously happy? Me too. I'm Sophia Lemon, and I host Ridiculously Happy Peoplecast. Once a week, I sit down with an awesome person I want to learn from, and we talk about how in the heck to balance life. Throw on your sweats and prepare to laugh, cry, and even cringe as we talk about all the bullshit that comes along with living ridiculously happy. Subscribe to Ridiculously Happy Peoplecast, and that's PPL Cast, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you find your podcasts, and get your shit together with us.
But okay, so yeah, I had my second right before COVID. I did a lot of my postpartum during COVID. And when I would see people post their new baby pictures and they were in their masks and their husbands couldn't be beside them and there was so many rules, I was like, I just beat it.
Yeah.
You probably know this better than me. During COVID, if you had a doula, were they allowed in the hospital?
There were times that no.
Okay.
There were times I think that you maybe couldn't even have your partner.
I think there were.
Yeah. And then it progressed. You could have one person. And for most people, that would be their partner.
Yeah.
If there wasn't a partner, or partner was away for whatever reason, it could be your doula. But yeah, I think birth support really went down for a while.
Okay.
And then
I will ask you this later, but when you said that, like, you knew you wanted to be a doula, did you know at that time that if you're going to be a doula, you'll probably be an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Okay. And were those classes like involved in the program?
There was a business course, which was less about how to run a doula business,
right,
and more about how to run and start just a business.
Okay.
But I think all of the other courses about how to be a doula and all the doula work was enough foundation that, like, combined with this business program, that I really felt ready to create a doula business. But yeah, just being in this rural area, I knew that I'd kind of be doing it on my own.
Oh, that's awesome.
But when I first thought about being a doula, I was like, I don't think there's anybody else in this area, or at least in Kincardine, that I've heard about. Since then, I've met a handful of people, and there are a few other people. Not everybody's a doula, but other people in the birth space. But yeah, I knew that I'd be doing entrepreneur work.
Yeah. That's exciting. Was that a hindrance, or was that like a exciting part of it as well?
It was exciting. Okay. I'm very type A. Like, I really like the organizational aspect of creating a business and like creating spreadsheets for
me too.
Whatever organization thing that's like maybe not important but like feels important, and I want to write it down anyway. I don't know. Like, I don't think it was really a hindrance. But yeah, there's been ups and downs with it, but that's all part of it.
No, I love that. Is this your full-time job, or do you do it?
I do other work as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I do have another job. It's full-time. It's shift work in Kincardine. That it just gives me a little bit of financial security.
I agree.
So I don't feel ready to give it up yet. And they know that my eventual goal is to do doula work full-time. Right. But I don't know when that's going to be. And right now I'm pretty comfortable. But it being shift work is actually ideal. If I had another job that was, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, when would the doula appointments be? They'd all be nighttime, or they'd be weekend. Yeah. But this job, I don't know, I have quite a few weekdays off. Right. So it actually works out really well.
Right. Yeah. And is it related to the doula space?
Not at all. Okay. Not in the slightest.
Oh,
but that's also, I don't know, that's kind of nice. Like, I'm...
Yeah, you get to experience
learning different things. Yeah.
So you said that you're more prenatal and postnatal, which also helps with your full-time job.
Yeah, I'm guessing. Exactly. And so there's a few reasons why I haven't really been part of like the birth space up until now. I've done it a couple times, but I'm not ready to take on, a couple births a month. Right. Part of that is because I have this other job. And I've never been one to be late or to miss shifts or to have to leave a shift. Yep. So I just don't feel comfortable being on call all the time and having to be like, hey, I have to go. Like, that's just not my style. Yeah. The other thing about not taking on births is you go on call for a client at about 38 weeks and you stay on call until they have a baby, which could be up until 42 weeks potentially. It could be a month per client that you're on call. And when you're on call, you can't spontaneously go out of town. Right. Or whenever you go, I don't know, to a dinner party or whatever, you have to drive separately than your family that you're going with or whatever. You always have to have your bags packed. You have to be ready to just go to a birth. And one day, maybe I'll be ready to have that in my life all the time. Right. I don't know, but right now, I really like the flexibility. Okay. Like, I'm not quite 25 yet. Like, I'm not ready to not be able to go just like back to London and hang out with my college roommates, like, or university roommates. Like, I don't know. One day, maybe. Right now, no. Yeah.
And I was going to mention that you were young, but I didn't know if you want to discuss that. So yeah, you are not even 25 yet. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But okay, so back to doula. What do you specialize in?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I'm primarily focusing on the prenatal and the postpartum. So prenatal doula work, it's very conversational because every family, every person has a different level of experience with pregnancy babies. Right. Some people are like myself. Like, I have a younger sister that I really remember everything about. Okay. Like, she's 10 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
So not only am I just like really interested in that stuff, but also like I have this younger sister and I do remember a lot. Yeah. Some people are the youngest, or they're an only child, or their siblings haven't had babies yet. Like, and they just haven't had really babies in their life. Yeah. So prenatal visits can be very conversational and end up being like people learn things they didn't know they needed to learn. It's very question, answer, conversation. It can also be talking about what they want their birth to look like and how to go about facilitating that to get the outcome that they most want. I mean, births change constantly. You have a birth plan, but like,
it has to be
it's very organic. Like, that can change, but it's always nice to go in with that idea with that plan. So it can be coming up with that birth plan. Right. And then on the postpartum side with my work, I never like to structure visits because postpartum visits are all about what this family needs today.
Right.
So sometimes it can, again, be conversational. It can be about boosting confidence with either parent or teaching new skills, going through feeding support. The client I'm working with right now, it's very much just like organizing their space so that they feel better mentally. So it's coming in and like doing laundry, doing dishes, taking the garbage out, like doing all those behind the scenes things, or like running to the store and getting food and meal prepping a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's very different from sitting down and talking and debriefing a birth. But like all of that is included in postpartum work. Yeah. And then I don't really do births very often. But in the birth space, the doula would come in once labor is for sure happening, right? Like a labor, like it could be like 36 hours somebody's in labor. Your doula typically comes once labor is really progressing.
Right.
So they're hopefully not there for the entire 36 hours.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot for somebody when they're at work.
Yeah.
But you could be there for quite a long time because you never know. So anyway, a birth doula shows up when labor is really progressing, and they're there just to be your constant companion. They're sitting more at the birthing person's head.
Okay.
They're not worried about the medical aspect of anything. Yeah. And they're not there. I always remind people that a doula is not there to replace a partner or any other person that's at the birth.
Yeah,
they're really just there to complement them and to be more of an educational person that has just a little bit more background.
Right. Has seen more births than maybe your partner.
Exactly. Yeah. Not there to replace them in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the doula that would do birthing, would they be like, let's try a new position? Or would they still leave that kind of to the...
No, that is definitely a doula thing, to suggest different positions that the client, the birthing person, may not be aware of. Every birth is different. So if somebody has chosen to have an epidural, obviously your position changes are limited because you're not able to walk around and squat and sway and whatever. But there still are different things that you can help move their body for them to progress things and to help them feel a little bit better. But yeah, if they can walk around, that's a big part of doula work, saying, you know what, like I see that you're kind of uncomfortable in this position. Maybe this isn't working anymore. Do you want to try this instead?
I think as a woman, and all women are different, but as me personally, I think I kind of knew what I was going to do going into it. And then obviously I didn't know anything. So I was like, sure, ask for an epidural. People say get epidurals, but then nobody told me, honestly, no one told me once you're in an epidural, you have to stay in your bed.
Yeah.
Because I think that they probably assumed that I would know that because I've talked to other women about that. And I probably assumed that if you couldn't move out of the bed, someone would tell me, but no one's like asking those questions, and no one's like saying, do you understand what this means? And so that's kind of what I picture the doula doing, just being like, I want you to fully understand what's happening right now.
Yeah. And that is the space I like to put myself in. If I were to attend a doctor appointment prenatally or whatever, there's a lot of talking going on between the doctor and the pregnant person, their family. But what I would do in that situation is just make sure that the client understands. Like if I see on their face that they're like nodding, but they're also like in their head, shaking their head, like they have no idea what's going on. That's sort of where I would be like, do you understand? Like, or do we need a little bit more clarification on this? Like, I'm a little bit confused because I don't know everything.
No,
right? Like there's a lot of medical terms I don't understand. So I might jump and ask that question or just.
So you're like the advocate for the pregnant.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and like I said, my sister's at labor and delivery. I am not putting them down at all, but they do see several women. Yeah, they don't know what you do and don't understand unless you ask. And as a mom, you might be like, I feel embarrassed to ask. So I feel like, no, you're paying me to make sure you understand everything. I'll make sure you understand everything.
It's a mix of advocating for the client and helping the client to advocate for themselves, which is just asking those questions or feeling like they can interject a little bit if they're uncomfortable with something.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of those advocating for and helping them advocate for themselves,
I like
which is a big thing.
Do you work with midwives?
No. I would say no, I haven't, just because it hasn't really come up. I'm not really in the birth space quite as often. I was at a postpartum visit, and there happened to be a midwife having a visit at the same time. So we crossed paths, but I haven't really worked with them. But
Yeah, because I had a midwife for my first, and I ended up having a C-section. So she was, what I remember most from that midwife is the postpartum. But she wasn't there to help me do my dishes. And I know that I didn't know this existed until I think my youngest was like 3 months old. And they were like, I had someone come in and do the night shift because my husband worked night shift and I couldn't do it by myself. And I was like, why did no one tell me this existed? That would have been the most best invested money after I had my children.
A night. Could be called like a night nurse or like a night doula kind of thing, which I haven't done yet. But I would. Like, really, that would just look like the mother, if they're breastfeeding especially, like they're still going to have to get up in the night to do the feedings.
Oh, yeah.
Especially like if they're not bottle fed or whatever. But they wouldn't have to do all the other stuff. Like if a diaper change had to happen or if it took a little bit of time to settle the baby, like that's what the night shift person is for. And hopefully the parents get a little bit more sleep. That's what that is for.
That's another thing. I think moms, until you have a baby, you think, I know I'm going to lose sleep, but...
Yes. But then when it's every single day for like a long time.
And I used to, because I was on these these Reddit boards, and they'd be like, I'm sick of old people telling me you'll never sleep again. And I was like, but I was shocked by how little I slept.
Yeah.
And I wish someone had told me, like, you'll never sleep again. I remember telling someone when I was 38 weeks pregnant, I can't wait to have this baby because I'm struggling to sleep and I want to sleep again. And no one said, that's not how this works. Get every sleep you can. And that's where I really struggled. So I always think every time you talk about postpartum, I'm like, how nice would that have been to have somebody just there at bedtime or just giving me a little nap during the day.
Yeah. And that's what postpartum visits can include too. Like if I just go over and
snuggle,
sit with the baby / get some other things done if the baby's just resting while the parents go have a nap. That's exactly what I'm there for too. Like every visit is so different.
Yeah. That would have been money well invested for your mental health too.
Yeah.
I don't think
totally.
I realized it was going to do such a wonky piece on my mental health, because when you're pregnant, you're like, of course I'm going to love this child.
Yeah.
Want to snuggle with them every single second and never put them down. And then you're like, oh wait, I would like to have a shower.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people I think are nervous to say things out loud like that, like sort of implying that they're like, I just need my space or I just need a break. But like you do, and that's okay. Like it is hard to have a baby if you've never had one before. Like you have no idea, or even welcoming a second baby. And when you already have one, like it is hard, and it is okay to have these thoughts of like, why am I doing this? Like, what did I want to do this really? Like that is okay to have those thoughts. Yeah, for sure.
I'd go through fertility clinic to have my first one. And then I remember, and I always call it a botched C-section, but I had a very, very traumatic C-section. And I had to go to the wound clinic for every other day for 12 weeks to get my a hematoma fixed. And I remember being like, this is what I wanted? I did all this work for this. This is what I wanted?
That is so much. So constant.
I know. And I remember thinking, like, obviously I'm not the only mom that thinks. Well, no, at the time you're like, am I the only mom that thinks I'm the only mom that's like mad that they did all this work?
Yeah.
But I had a second one. So I did it again.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, we talked about prenatal, postnatal. I wanted to say, you mentioned grief earlier, and you mentioned a lot of grief things happen. But now that we're talking about women's mental health, sort of mother's mental health, a lot of grief can also be that your birth plan didn't go right.
Totally.
Yeah. Like you had this plan that you were going to have this beautiful, like I picture like a midwife birth, and then it ends up you having a C-section.
Yep. Totally opposite of what you envision happening.
And that's grief.
It is.
Yeah.
It totally is. Like there's nothing I'm more excited about than having a baby.
Yeah.
But in my head, it is so well planned. And I know that I would be upset if it doesn't go the way
Yeah.
wanted to. I already know that, and I have no idea when I'm going to have a baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, so I can only imagine what it's like for people. So when I have prenatal visits with people, that is a question I ask so that people are thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, how do you anticipate, managing or dealing with unexpected situations or like a change of plans? Some people, I don't care. As long as baby's healthy, yeah, whatever, I don't care. And then that's kind of the end of conversation there a little bit. They're fine with it. Other people, they kind of have to think about it a little bit because they haven't considered the other side, like how it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely is, it's something worth talking about ahead of time. It still may be traumatic for people if the change in plan happens.
Well, yeah.
But hopefully by talking about it a little bit ahead of time, it can hopefully open their mental space a little bit. But yeah, like afterwards, after birth, just debriefing how the birth went. People could tell me a birth story, and to me, it sounds really traumatic. But to them, it's not at all.
Okay.
So I would never say, oh, like, didn't that make you feel bad in this way?
Yeah.
Like, I'm never going to try it, like, change somebody's idea about how their birth went. But if they open up to me and say, it was really hard, like, I did not expect this to happen, and now I'm really upset that I didn't get my whatever.
Yeah.
Then that's something we can sit and talk about.
Yeah.
For sure.
Did you have mental health training in?
Not to the level of like psychologists at all.
No, of course.
But like, yeah, like we talk about how to hold space, which really just means talking with somebody, but not trying to give them solutions.
Right.
In a way, like just being that person they can vent to.
Okay.
They can talk to.
Yeah.
You can share some insights if you have them, but you're not trying to change the way the person is feeling. You want to validate their feelings. So that's what we learned about holding space.
Okay.
Which I do think is really valuable. For sure. Like if somebody does need more support than I can give, I will definitely say, you know what, maybe it would be beneficial for you to go talk to somebody who has a little bit more of that psychology background. But yeah.
Who should seek your services? Are you a believer that all women should use a doula? Or are there women who shouldn't? Are there women who should? Like what?
Yeah, I think every family would benefit from a doula for sure.
It sounds like it,
Yeah. Like I haven't ever brainstormed a situation where a family wouldn't benefit from it. There is, our area is really interesting. So there's a lot of new families moving here for Bruce Power related careers. And they don't have, grandparents, other generations around to help them.
Yes.
But there are also a lot of people in our area who have been here for a long time, and they do have so much family.
Okay.
A lot of families who have family around are maybe less inclined to hire a doula because they feel like the support is there, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
But there are sometimes boundaries that need to come into play with family, or maybe you would rather just have your parents or your sister over to have more like of a bonding situation, and you don't want them to feel like they need to go do your laundry or like bring food over or help a lot. So even when there's lots of family, a doula can be of assistance, not just to do these chores that a family member can do.
Right.
But a doula also comes in with just a lot of education and a lot of knowledge that family members don't always have. So some people feel like maybe a doula isn't needed so much when family is in the area, but I'm of the belief that you can definitely still benefit. Maybe you don't need the doula to come over 3 times a week, like some people maybe do.
Right.
But still having that consistent support, somebody to text if you have a random question is nice.
I never thought of that, but that's true. Do you do breastfeeding support?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not a lactation consultant.
Okay.
So if things, I'm using air quotes, but if things that are, out of the norm or more medical type related, that is when you would see a lactation consultant or an IBCLC.
Okay.
But anything that's sort of, does this latch look correct? Or how do I know that my baby's hungry? Or how often do I feed them? How do I know when they're full? Like anything like that is for sure something I can help with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another thing that I learned. So my oldest wouldn't latch. And like, I thought that like, what is wrong with me? Why is he not latching? This is crazy. And my nurse, again, not knocking nurses, suggested the meeting a lactation consultant. Then the lactation consultant immediately suggested a lip and a tongue tie. So then they went to that immediately. And I'm a new mom, so I'm just believing what people are telling me. And I think I read just like in the last 6 months that like not as many babies as have lip and tongue ties as are being treated for these lip and tongue ties.
Right. Yeah. There are lots of reasons why a latch can be difficult. And a lip and tongue tie is for sure one of them. And if you have a really colicky baby or really gassy or they're not feeding properly, like those are all signs that it could be a lip tie. And then that is something you'd maybe want to take care of. But that doesn't mean that that's what it is all the time, right? Which is exactly why I'm not going to be the one to make any of those assumptions or like say this is what it is. Like I'm never in the position to say this is exactly what is happening, right? Because I just don't have that medical background. But yeah, a handful of different reasons why a latch might not be working. And part of it is maybe you just don't know what a latch looks like.
That's true.
For a lot of people, like they just don't know. How would you know?
With my second, I said, I really struggled breastfeeding my first. So can you just pretend like I'm 5 and I've never done this before? And he latched immediately. And I was like, And so, yeah, all babies are different too, right?
Totally.
Yeah. I remember like I had 0 issues ever latching with my second. I still hated breastfeeding. So I didn't do it very long with my second, but he had 0 issues. And I thought, how much pressure did I put on myself when it was... My oldest was just kind of being, he just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I was putting all that pressure on myself, being like, I'm doing it wrong. And it was the baby. Yeah. Which I'm not, it makes me like, dumb baby. But that's what I mean. I just mean like, moms are going through so much differences. And it's a lot of it I think it has to do with their hormones. And they just put all the blame on yourself. Yeah. But all on themselves.
While we're kind of on this, like, there's an idea with doulas that, again, air quotes, like we're kind of granola, if you know sort of what that term means, or like you have to do everything the way you were born to do it, or like it has to be a non-medical birth, it has to be you have to breastfeed, you have to use cloth diapers. Like, I don't care. I genuinely don't care how people want to bring this baby into the world, how they want to feed their baby, what routines they want to establish. Like, I'm very much of the idea that like if you know you want to formula feed your baby from the get-go, because you know that that's going to work for you, that's fine. If you want to exclusively pump and bottle feed, perfect. If you want to exclusively breastfeed, great. And then if that doesn't work out, I will help you figure out what does work for you. Like, I don't care. Yeah. Which I think is really important, because there maybe is a little bit of hesitation in hiring a doula because you don't want to breastfeed, or like, you don't want to do things that granola way. Yes. But for me, I don't care.
I would say, I feel like I don't get a granola vibe from you, but I've met other doulas and I do. And I do think when I was having a baby and I thought doula, I thought like home birth. Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm not having a home birth. I'm definitely having a hospital birth. And so you really like, enlightened me already just in the last half hour about how much I should have used a doula and what I could have gotten out of that experience.
Hey, listen up. Tamara here from the Clinic Club podcast interrupting. Sorry, not sorry. I just wanted to let you know that if you love this podcast, you might just love the Clinic Club as well. We are all about deep cleaning our lives from the inside out, digging those skeletons out of our closets and letting go of what no longer serves us. So roll up your sleeves, dust off those life lessons, and join me and my friends as we learn how to navigate our way to a life with more love, more laughter, and maybe less piles of laundry. Find the Clinic Club podcast on Spotify.
Okay, so what makes you unique and different than other doulas in the area?
For starters, there really aren't too many of us around, which I think is part of the unique factor,
Right.
because I do provide that support that you might not find otherwise. But I think part of it is that a lot of doulas, doesn't matter where they're from, go into doula work after they've had a baby and they see the gap and they see the need for support, which is fantastic. That's awesome. But that's not my story, right? Like I've already said that I haven't had a baby and that it will happen for me one day. Like that is a goal of mine. I don't know when, but I haven't had a baby yet. But I knew that I wanted to do this work, which I feel is a little bit unique because I saw that gap and I saw it as a gap that I wanted to fill, even though I've never experienced it.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, when you started to talk, like, who should be a doula? Because it's interesting that you said normally mothers who understand the gap, but were there lots of mothers in your doula program?
There were a handful.
Okay.
Yeah, like it was a good mix, I would say. And also everybody was of different ages. Like I was like 22 at the time.
Yeah.
And there was only a handful of people that were younger than me, even though it was like, I don't know, when you go to college, you kind of expect that everybody's going to be like
Younger.
18, 19.
Yeah.
But they're really like, I was probably one of the younger ones. And other people, like I think the oldest was maybe my mom's age.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Lots of different people coming from different, everybody had a different reason why they wanted to be a doula. I think maybe the main characteristic for being a doula, being a good doula, is just that you are more in touch with your emotions a little bit. Like you can empathize with people.
Yeah.
And that you're okay with having harder conversations.
Okay.
But also you have to be okay with not knowing everything, which comes with the territory a little bit, right? Like you go to your doctor's office, you have a question and you expect that they're going to have an answer. But as a doula, there are so many things I don't know. And I'm comfortable saying, you know, I don't have the answer to this question, but like I know how to figure it out.
Right.
And I can do that and I'll let you know next time.
Okay.
And I've struggled a little bit with it. Like I want to have the answer to every single question.
Yeah.
But I'm learning to be okay with the knowledge that I do have.
Right.
And knowing how to continually grow.
Yeah.
And get more knowledge and become a more knowledgeable person.
Yeah. I'm like very inspired. I'm always inspired in my interviews, but right now I'm inspired to the point where I'm like, no mother should have a baby without a doula.
Oh, thank you.
And so that's why I asked, like, who should be a doula? Because now I'm thinking this should be viable options for, like, young women who, like you haven't, or even like moms who are like, I want to be able to drop my kids off at school in the morning and pick them up at 3. What should I be doing with my daytime job? And being like supporting other moms who want that kind of information.
It's nice because you make with every entrepreneur job, you kind of make your own hours, but like it would make that morning time and afternoon time a little bit easier if you could schedule your own hours in the middle of the day.
Now I'm like, I'm always like, I'm honestly always inspired. I'm like, I should be a dog walker. I love walking. Yeah. Why wouldn't I take a dog with me? I should be a doula. I have a couple hours in the morning. Why wouldn't I ask a mom if she needs help? It wouldn't be a doula, but it would still be like a mom, like a mom helper. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I honestly think right now, like, why wouldn't you pay for this service?
Yeah.
When it's so valuable.
Yeah.
And maybe because I had a hard thing, I get the value, but
yeah, you see that. I hear that all the time from people who have had kids. They're like, oh, I wish I knew that.
Yeah.
Or I wish you were around. And I was like, well, I wasn't around because your kid is 12.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was 12 when they were born. Like, but I hear stuff like that all the time. And so I hope that over time, as I like, it's only been like a year and a half or whatever since I've been doing this work, but I'm hoping the more people say that to other people, it sends clients my way.
Yes, exactly.
Often.
And I do think beating this misconception that it's kind of granola, which I'm not chirping granola because I think they had it right the whole time.
Yeah. Granola is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of what I would want to do with the baby.
Yeah.
But it's not what I push on people at all. Like I don't.
Oh, yeah. But I do, yeah. Okay, let's talk about operating your business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I'm inspired. I'm inspired because going into Doula, you knew you were going to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then you said you always knew you were going to come back to this area.
Yeah.
So what are the advantages or challenges of operating a business in this area?
An advantage is that I know quite a lot of people because I've grown up here. Or even if I don't really know them, like my parents know them. And then my mom shares something of mine on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then they see it. Like there is a good reach of people that I know. And most people are willing to, mention me to people they know that maybe could use my services.
Yeah.
So even if they themselves aren't in the birth space and haven't been in the birth space for 25 years, they're willing to talk about it because they want me to succeed.
Yeah.
So that's been really, really lovely that we have such a close-knit community.
Yeah.
I think one of the main struggles is driving is one of them.
I was going to say it.
Yeah. Like Kincardin's only so big. Like there's only so many people. There's quite a lot of people having babies. But then of those people, only a percentage of them know what a doula is.
Yeah.
And of those, only some of them are going to hire a doula,
Yeah.
So I kind of have to say that I support people in surrounding communities, but like Port Elgin's half an hour.
Yeah.
Walkerton's half an hour. Goderich is 40 minutes. Like it's always driving, which is fine. I don't mind it because it is, I don't know.
We did grow up. I feel like we grew up that way.
I'm used to driving around and then I get to listen to this podcast or like other podcasts in the car. Like I do enjoy my me time in the car, but like it is a factor.
Yep.
Driving around. We started this podcast, me explaining what a doula is.
Yeah.
And I do spend a lot of my time doing that.
Yes.
That has also been a bit of a challenge. In urban areas, a lot of people know what a doula is. In our area, a lot of people do not.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to... First, I'm on Instagram and I try really hard to do a lot of doula education there.
Yeah.
So somebody has to stumble upon my page and get invested. And then they have to take the time to learn what a doula is and how like that could help them. And then they have to decide to hire a doula. Like there are much fewer people in this area who get pregnant and know that they're going to hire a doula. There's a lot of like, they have to learn it. They just don't know. So that is another struggle that I've been trying to conquer. And I think that's why this last year and a half, it's been slow-ish. Slow, like I knew it was going to be because I knew that there would be that education piece. And also, my reputation has to be built.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some level of trust. So it has been kind of slow, but I think it is progressing. And like Google reviews helps that. Like the more people can, like you can gain their trust, the more clients you're going to get.
Yeah.
And having those reviews and having people on Instagram, following your page and stuff, that all really helps. And it's getting there. But
yeah, like I do marketing, so I agree with you because if you own a coffee shop, your marketing is geared to getting people inside the door.
Yeah.
But when you are a doula and you're a new service, and we're kind of lucky in that you mentioned that there's a lot of people from the city that are moving to this area. So Port Elgin might be a little bit different, but yeah, even when you were talking, I was like, oh, her marketing is like awareness marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not people getting in the door.
No.
You would be spending a lot of marketing dollars on literally just explaining to people, educating people what a doula is.
So much energy. It's been a little bit of a mental struggle because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm doing so much on Instagram, like trying really hard, which I'm not that creative, but like Canva is really helpful. I would recommend to anybody you spend the $13 a month or whatever and just get Canva Pro because it really helps because I don't really have a very artistically visual brain, but like that is helping. But yeah, so I'm putting all this energy towards Instagram and like making my website look as nice as I know how to make it look. And then like, especially for the first little while, that did not translate to getting clients.
Yeah.
Which is hard because I know that I'm good at my job, but I have to prove that.
Yeah.
And people have to know that I'm there and then learn that I'm good at my job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Lauren Best, and in my podcast, I have conversations with compelling creatives and answer your questions. I dive into what I've learned as a voice coach and performance poet, and share why over 15 years of music leadership has shaped my collaborative approach. I reveal how I've reawakened my own creativity. Subscribe to my new show, Lauren's Best, wherever you get your podcasts. Join me on Substack for exclusive bonus content, laurenbest.substack.com.
So that's another question I like to ask, because I like to ask, do you outsource anything? And that might be something that you haven't experienced yet.
I have not.
Okay. Okay, but do you use do you use your own scheduling software?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I'm not quite at the capacity where I need to do that. I don't know. Like, I'd rather just send my availability to the client I'm working with and book it that way.
And do you use, I like to ask these questions only because if someone's inspired to be a doula, they might be like, oh, but I don't want to do the bookkeeping. So do you use like QuickBooks or like a bookkeeping software or anything?
We just Excel. Like one day maybe, but I'm not spending the money on that yet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do use QuickBooks and it's $6 a month and I expense that. Like I put that bill back into QuickBooks like it's expensed, but I kind of like QuickBooks. I used it in my old jobs. I was like, I don't know how to use it.
Yeah, you know how to use it, so you might as well. Yeah, I'm not quite there yet. Like I'm organized enough that I can handle the flow that I do have.
Yeah.
On Excel, and it's fine.
I like to ask, we kind of covered who should be a doula, but do you have advice for anybody that would want to be a doula?
Really make sure that you feel confident in yourself and the education that you do have. I had mentioned before that I did my education at Fanshawe.
Yeah.
It was a 1-year program, but you don't have to do that. You could just do there's a couple different institutions like Doula Canada and Doula, which I'm forgetting exactly what that stands for, but these are two like larger doula organizations kind of that you can be like a member of. You can do your training through them, but they are more like a series of weekends and like self-led type things. Yeah. And that you feel confident in yourself. Like people can read off of you, whether like, I mean, there's always like a fake it till you make it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like people can read off of you if you don't have at least a baseline level of confidence. And like the more trust you have in yourself, the more
you exude confidence anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I like that answer. Sorry. I'm going to skip the small business hack unless you have one.
I don't really have one. The thing that I brainstormed to say, which you can keep or you cannot.
Yeah.
Some people might like this as a hack and some people might not. I have my other job.
Right.
And that gives me financial security so that I can put more creative energy into my business without actually worrying about how much money I'm making. Yeah. Yes, I have less time to be a doula, but I have a lot more mental space to put creatively towards it.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping this other job makes me feel a little bit more secure.
Yeah.
And one day that will change. But for now, that's my hack.
Yeah.
Being at the beginning of it is just having that financial backing somewhere else.
Yeah. I love that. Did you contact the Bruce County Enterprise Center when you wanted to become a doula? Like, did you contact anybody to help you become a business?
I did this youth grant thing for a different business I did. Like I used to grow vegetables and sell them.
Look at you.
This was in university in very COVID times. Yeah. The first year worked out really well. The second year I wanted nothing to do with it anymore and I was checked out, but I did get a grant through them.
And what was it called?
Summer Company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm asking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did do that with them for that company or for that little business.
Yeah.
But I was going back to school, so I was allowed to. Yeah. Now I wasn't going to be going back to school, so I couldn't do the Summer Company student grant anymore. I'm sure there were things that were available to me out of school, but I actually haven't looked into it, and maybe I should because I do have her contact, like
Janelle Bannon.
Yeah.
I'm asking the Summer Company. You probably learned a lot of entrepreneurship things that you're taking into this, though.
Yeah.
Like when I asked, did you do business classes at Fanshawe? Was Summer Company actually more helpful?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Like I don't want to say any negative things about the fan shop program because it was really awesome. But I did say that it wasn't very doula specific, like that business course. And obviously neither was the summer company one. It wasn't about doula stuff.
No, but
it did feel a little bit more beneficial.
Yeah. And together. And you should have mentioned this earlier. I didn't know that you were an entrepreneur before.
I know. It's like I have good feelings about it, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm glad that that's over. I don't know. Like, it was fun. I do so it was a market garden business. So I grew up on a farm.
Okay.
So my parents have property.
Yeah.
So it was a huge, like, I'll send you a picture after.
Yeah.
Like, it was quite a large operation.
Okay.
I didn't end up making really any money. It was COVID time, so I wasn't really spending much money either.
Yeah.
But I just grew a ton of vegetables, and then people would either just order them and pick them up at the farm.
Yeah.
Or I'd just sell them at the farmer's market on Saturday.
I love that.
And I did enjoy that. Like, I was so fit for 2 summers because I was just constantly outside, like, doing physical labor.
Yeah.
And I loved, like, I learned how to do, like, canning and other, like, granola type things. But, like, I don't know, it was fun.
Are your parents entrepreneurs?
Like,
Where did your entrepreneurship spirit come from?
I have no idea, to be honest. Like, my mom is not. Like, she's always worked with older people.
Okay.
Like she used to work at a retirement home as a activity director.
Mm-hmm.
And then now she does, like, in-home care, not nursing, but more social, like, gets groceries with them, just, like, hangs out.
Is that entrepreneurial?
It's...
Like, does she organize her own customers?
No.
Clients,
so
my apologies.
she does do it under somebody else.
Oh, okay.
But it still is very independent.
Yeah.
But, like, she doesn't have to find her clients. And then my dad was a high school teacher here in Port Elgin. He only just retired, like, last year.
Weird. My parents are both high school teachers.
Yeah.
But school teachers too.
But he, like, we do have this farm, and he's always, like, I mean, we moved to the farm when I was 10. So he's always had, like, cows and stuff. So that's entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And then for a couple of years he did construction, which is entrepreneurial.
Okay.
But, like,
he always had a backup.
He always had a job.
Okay.
Yeah. Entrepreneurial stuff has never been, like, the forefront of our family.
Yeah. I'm just like curious. Like, I think that some people are born entrepreneurs. I feel like you must have been born an entrepreneur. Did you do stuff in high school?
No, not entrepreneurial. Like, I worked at the pool in Kincardine in high school, like, teaching swimming lessons and stuff.
Okay.
So
do you think that if you had not have done summer company, would you be inspired to be your own doula?
I think I still would have done it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. It's interesting now that I've done 2 businesses.
Yeah.
But I forget about the other one because, like, it was COVID times. You forget
I hear
things that you've even done in those couple years. Like, I don't know.
But it's kind of cool. I'm guessing, and I don't know your story, but you were gardening and you're like, I should make money doing this.
Yeah.
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 Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where you go.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't have any more questions. I normally do a rapid fire round, and I came up with some really random questions.
Okay.
Do you read?
I do.
Okay, what's your favorite book?
I don't know that I have a favorite book exactly right now, but I really like reading Colleen Hoover books. I don't know. They're just easy to read. And they're interesting. Yeah. Right now I have a friend who, she likes to buy books.
I love to buy books.
I don't, but I like to read books.
Yeah.
So she just, like, lends them to me.
Yeah.
So I read just whatever she gives me. But luckily we have the same, like, interests in books.
Yeah.
And she's done a lot of Colleen Hoover. So I've been more into that. But it's funny, like, as a kid, I read. And then, like, high school, university, I was like,
same.
You can't give me a book. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm reading and learning all the time. The last thing I want to do at the end of the day is read. I'm watching Netflix.
Yeah.
So it's only since I've been out of school that I've gotten back into books. But yeah, it's more like thriller-esque romance type of thing.
So we like the same stuff.
Yeah, book.
Where would you most like to travel to?
I've always really wanted to go to New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I know when I decided I wanted to go there, I was probably like 11. And I think I was like, that's a country? Like, learning all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, that looks like a really cool place to go.
Yeah.
And I've never let that go. Like, I don't know.
Go to New Zealand.
That's just where I want to go. And, like, it's so far away, I'll have to spend a good amount of time there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's probably, like, my bucket list.
I love that
place.
I want to know, like, what's your favorite girl's name?
Changes all the time. I remember in high school, I really liked Harper.
Yeah.
I thought that was cute. Right now, I really like Marin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Marin. I feel like I know a Marin. There's Marin Morris.
Yeah, the singer.
Yeah. What's your favorite boy's name?
Boys' names I find are a lot harder.
Yeah.
Right now, I really like Casey with a C.
That's a cool name.
Like you can use it for a girl or boy. It's kind of unisex, but I don't know. I'm kind of into it. And I'm not going to share my names. People are
I was going to say, you don't have to tell
literally
me.
don't care. Like one of my friends had a baby last year and she didn't tell anybody the name. Yeah. But we were just talking one time and I was like, oh, I really like this name. And she's like, okay. And then her baby's born and I'm like, no way, it's the name I said. That's so cool. So like if I use the name, like I don't know, like names are just names. Like I don't really care about sharing.
Well, my boys' names are Oliver and Carter, and they're like top 10.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, whatever.
I like them.
Exactly. And I remember telling people my list, like, I don't know, it's gonna be one of these, and then other people being like, I will not tell you what the baby's name is. I was like, but what if it's my name? Like, what if I fall in love with it?
Yeah.
And then I can't name my baby that. If you don't tell me your name and I fall in love with it, there might be two of them.
Yep. Yeah, and that's your fault.
Yeah. That's funny. I'll ask you my classic question. Yeah. What would you, if you're on death row, what would your last meal be?
So when I knew that we were going to do this, and I hear you ask this question,
because
I've been thinking about it, but it actually didn't take that much thinking. So in London, pretty much right across from my apartment that I was living in, there's this chicken sandwich restaurant called Buttermilk, but it's spelled BTRMLK.
Yeah.
I've never had a better anything in my entire life. Like, not just chicken sandwich, like anything. Like, so good. Kind of expensive.
Okay.
But like, oh yeah, I really like it because they have like 4 things that they make. Like, you go to McDonald's and there's like 400 things you could get and everything's mediocre. You go to Buttermilk, there's 4 things you can order and it doesn't matter what you get, they're going to be good. I get the classic just chicken sandwich every time.
Yep.
But like, so good, like worth the $22 or whatever.
My cousin lives in, I have lots of family in London, and every time we go, I'm like, can we go to Buttermilk? I've never been.
Really?
No.
You have to. It needs to be a priority.
Okay, so Katie, how do we find you? You mentioned Instagram and your website.
Yes, those would be my main ones. So website would just be katiefranklindoulaservices.com or .ca.
Okay, I'll link it.
Either way you'll find it. And then Instagram at Katie Franklin Doula Services. Those are my main ones. Yeah.
Perfect. And contact you because everyone needs a doula.
Yeah. So you can find, like, my email's just Katie Franklin Doula Services at Gmail. But you can be linked to that through my Instagram and through my website. There's a contact page. So
I was also going to say, you are doing right now, if anyone has like old newborn or size 1 diapers.
Yes. So just with my background, like wanting to help people who don't have the access to things like diapers and stuff are really expensive and totally necessary.
Yeah.
But like food banks and other places aren't going to take, half open bags of diapers. But I would, because I can just give them to people. Like, it's less formal.
Yeah.
So if you have, like newborn, size 1, size 2, I don't know, a dozen of them just taking up space in a closet, like, I'm happy to take them off your hands and give them to people who really need them.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.